Khanna joins us right now. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So this is really a difficult situation. A lot of us want these tests so that we can stay safe in the workplace as well as in schools. So how do we get access to more of these tests?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, the pandemic has been going on almost 2 years. By now, we should be able to mail every American family a test for every week. That's what they're doing in the UK and so many other European countries. The administration has said they're going to do 500 million tests, but really what we need is 2 billion tests. And I've said let's invoke the Defense Production Act to get these mailed to American families and to have them available at the grocery store, at the Walgreens, places where people go on a daily basis.
And how do we deal with, for example, I was at a pharmacy and someone in front of me was just like putting their arms around a whole bunch of tests. So I was left with no tests. I mean, it's a little bananas out there.
Well, that's not very nice or polite. I think people have to have basic respect and civility and understand they shouldn't be hogging all the tests. At the same time, this is something that our government should have been able to do. I mean, you understand it's difficult to develop the vaccines. It's difficult to develop the exact dosage for kids. But come on, getting tests and getting masks, that's so basic. This is something the administration can do, must do, and we ought to be getting these out the amount that we need.
It seems, I mean, we knew that based on the models of what was going on in South Africa as well as what was going on in Britain, that it was going to strike us. It was just a matter of time. But some are saying that the administration was a little flat-footed, not getting those tests out. I mean, Omicron first showed up, I believe, at the end of November, around Thanksgiving time. And here we are still kind of juggling, trying to figure out how to stay safe.
Well, look, hindsight is 20/20, and I'm interested in what we can do going forward. But obviously, we should have been doing more. I mean, we should have had these masks out. Bernie Sanders and I have been calling for getting free masks to every American for the past year. And if we just got the N95 masks out this week, and think about how much it would help before Omicron peaks. People would wear them. The administration says, well, not everyone's going to wear a mask. Well, not everyone's going to get vaccinated. We still try to vaccinate people. So I do think that we need to do a better job on getting the masks out. We need to do a better job on getting testing. And it is crazy to me that we're sending nurses who are COVID positive back into hospitals. That's just wrong. There are plenty of other ways that we can attract nurses. 1 million nurses who are registered but not at the bedside. Let's attract them back, have right worker protections. But some of these policies really haven't been working.
And I completely agree with you in regards to the whole issue of getting more masks into people's hands. Also, I think that probably more messaging about the fact that those cloth masks that we were using and sewing, producer and I were sewing those at our desks in the early phases of the pandemic. Those are not good enough.
You're right. Here, you know, this week I'm in Washington. We were voting, and before we went on the House floor, we got a notice saying you need to wear N95 masks. That's what's going to protect you. So here's my question. If it's appropriate for members of Congress to have that protection of N95 masks, shouldn't that guidance be for all Americans? I don't think Congress people should be kept more safe than any other American. And all we're saying is make sure that every American both has the communication on the N95 masks and gets those masks. Those are hard to find. I have to wait on Amazon to get them. I mean, it's not like you can just go into your local drugstore and get the N95 masks.
And you can't snap your fingers about any of that. And I think that that's a really frustrating thing, especially as parents trying to send our kids back to school. And we want to make sure that they are best protected. We want to make sure our teachers and the staff are best protected. So it's really a very challenging and difficult time for so many people. So that said, how do we move the needle? How do we move forward? How are we going to get those masks into the appropriate hands?
Well, I've called on the president to invoke the Defense Production Act and to start mailing these masks to every American family. My understanding is the administration has said they're going to start creating and sending these masks. And then second, let's make sure that these masks are available at pharmacies, at local grocery stores, post offices, places people go. Third, let's get the testing available to every American. And finally, for young kids, we still need the vaccine. I mean, particularly kids under 5. I'm told that we've made progress on that, and I'm hopeful in the next month or two we're going to hear some good news.
And are you hearing anything in regards to boosters for the population of the 5 to 12-year-olds?
I have not. I know the FDA is looking at that, and obviously when it comes to kids, they really have to be careful on the safety. But I will inquire again with them on the boosters. Obviously, they have said that for all adults, the booster really is very necessary, particularly against Omicron.
So before we leave, as far as the Defense Act, how fast can that be ramped up? And when could people here in the Bay Area maybe see some of the consequences from a positive perspective of getting those things into people's hands?
Well, I think if the president invokes it, it can be done in a couple of weeks. Now, obviously, the sooner the better, given Omicron's peak. But, you know, what I often tell people, in 1938 in this country, we had 3,500 airplanes. And FDR said we need to get to 50,000 airplanes. And he was laughed at. Well, by 1940, we had 60,000 airplanes. So when we mobilize and our government mobilizes, we're capable of ordinary things. We have to treat COVID like we are on a war footing. And when it comes to masks and testing and basic supplies, the government really needs to act and be prepared.
I appreciate that. Anything else you think is really important for us to kind of touch on with this? I mean, this is certainly a very touch and go. We know that the model's coming out saying that we could cautiously optimistically saying that we could be at the peak of Omicron. So maybe perhaps we could be rounding the corner on this variant, but of course it is unclear as far as talking to the infectious disease experts about if there's another variant around the corner.
Well, I first just want to thank the nurses, the doctors, the healthcare workers for what they're doing. I mean, it has been so stressful for folks. I've been talking to them. Some of them have been 2 years at this, and I just want to convey how grateful I am for helping people, particularly in the Bay Area and in my district. And second, I understand it's been an exhausting 2 years. I understand you may have issues with kids at home, mental health issues, stress. It's been a tough 2 years, and I'm just hopeful that we can get the masks, we can get the testing, and maybe after Omicron we start to turn a corner because I understand people's frustration and wanting to get back to normal life. Without
a doubt. We are talking with a mental health expert coming up in a little bit. But thank you right now, Congressman Khanna. We appreciate all of your efforts, and we will certainly be circling back to see if you hear word from the White House as far as trying to get that Defense Act moving and get that stuff into people's hands.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, sir. You're watching KRON On. We'll have more news after the break.